Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 51 based on novel. So let's start. The slim lady's cheeks were flushed due to blushing, while her eyes, which were originally as calm as amber, were now filled with embarrassment and anger. This rarely seen appearance of hers was extremely soul-stirring. Ashamed and angry, Ling Qingzhu stared at Lin Dong. It was obvious that she was somewhat unable to believe that he would actually be so audacious. After being stared at by Ling Qingzhu in such a manner, Lin Dong finally regained his senses, and could not help but feel extremely awkward. His previous action was rather quick and he did not put much thought into it. Only after he tore off Ling Qingzhu's veil, did he finally realize what he had done. However, it was obvious that no explanation would be of any use in this situation. Therefore, Lin Dong could only release a dry laugh. The embarrassment and anger on Ling Qingzhu's face did not last for long. Her willpower was indeed extraordinary, as even in such a situation, she quickly stabilized her mood. Sending a furious glare at Lin Dong, she took back her veil and covered her soul-stirringly beautiful face once again. "If you do this again, don't think about keeping your hand." After covering her face with the veil, Ling Qingzhu shot a look at Lin Dong and said with a clear and cold voice. Lin Dong grinned and laughed. He knew that if another person had tore off Ling Qingzhu's veil, she would have likely immediately drawn her sword and attacked. Furthermore, her response let him know that the position he had in her heart was somewhat different from the rest. Of course, this did not mean that Ling Qingzhu fancied him. Lin Dong was no fool and he knew that his charm was not that formidable. Although he was pretty talented, he was not overly dazzling in the eyes of Ling Qingzhu, who was already used to meeting various monsters and geniuses. A large part of this was likely due to the incident that had occurred back then. Other than that, perhaps the changes that occurred to Lin Dong over the past few years had also caused Ling Qingzhu to feel somewhat astonished. As she gazed at the smile on Lin Dong's face, Ling Qingzhu gently clenched her pearly white teeth. Just as she was about to speak, she discovered a berserk fluctuation suddenly unfurl from Lin Dong's body. Nirvana tribulation? When she sensed the familiar fluctuation, Ling Qingzhu was startled for a second, before looking at Lin Dong with a peculiar glint in her eyes. It seems like this fellow had gained quite a bit during this 5 days of seclusion. Has it finally arrived? When the fluctuation emerged from within his body, a radiant smile appeared on Lin Dong's face. Soon after, he took in a deep breath and closed his eyes once again. Green light sparkled continuously on the surface of his body. Indistinctly, a deep muffled roar rang out from his body. This time around, Lin Dong closed his eye for approximately half an hour. Under the attentive gaze of Ling Qingzhu, Lin Dong opened his eyes again. At this moment, there were small beads of perspiration on his forehead. "It's done," said Lin Dong as he smiled towards Ling Qingzhu. "Oh?" Ling Qingzhu faintly nodded her head as she diverted her gaze from Lin Dong's body while secretly feeling quite amazed. This was the 8th Nirvana tribulation and was definitely not a weak one. When she had passed it previously, she had used quite a bit of time. Furthermore, she was nowhere as relaxed as Lin Dong had been. Finally at the 8th Nirvana stage, muttered Lin Dong as he stood up. As he clenched his fists, he felt the surging power within his body, causing a happy expression that was hard to conceal to appear in his eyes. The life chi pill Fen Tian had given him was indeed extremely beneficial to him. Furthermore, after this breakthrough, he could still feel that the life chi pill existence within his body. The current him was unable to absorb the boundless power within it. "Looks like you have received most of the benefits from this trip to the Burning Sky Ancient Stash," said Ling Qingzhu as her eyes swept across Lin Dong. Upon hearing this, Lin Dong could not resist and broke out into laughter. It was true after all. Before this, he had heard that the Burning Sky Ancient Stash contained numerous treasures. However, only after entering did he realize that not only were there scarcely any treasures, there was instead a huge problem inside. After escaping from the Burning Sky Array with great difficulty, he encountered the black fog creature that had been set free. Some unlucky fellows had even lost their lives because of this. However, after paying such a huge price, everyone who entered had to leave empty-handed and were even forced to flee in a miserable manner. At the end of the day, the only one that seemed to have truly profited was Lin Dong. Everyone else could only leave dejected and depressed. "How long did I cultivate?" asked Lin Dong after turning his head around. 5 days. 5 days, huh? Muttered Lin Dong as he slowly nodded his head. His gaze turned towards Ling Qingshu as he smiled and said, "Why didn't you leave first?" For these 5 days, Ling Qingshu had evidently stayed nearby. She could have left this place earlier and continue leading the 9 Heavens Supreme Purity Palace disciples instead of wasting her time here. There are quite a few artifacts left from ancient times here. "I merely wanted to explore," replied Ling Qingshu in an indifferent tone as she turned her gaze away. "Oh," said Lin Dong with a chuckle. He did not probe any deeper. As his laugh faded, it was followed by another word, "Thanks." Although the two of them did not talk about it, Lin Dong knew that Ling Qingshu had stayed behind because she had the intention of protecting him. Although he would not be disturbed in this place, Lin Dong felt slightly touched by her actions. Ling Qingshu declined to comment and replied, "If your cultivation is done, let's get going." Lin Dong nodded his head and stood up. Soon after, his gaze was cast towards Fen Tian, who was sitting like a stone statue, and gave a respectful bow towards him. "Elder Fen Tian, if this young one is able to reach the level you spoke of, I will definitely save and awaken you." As soon as he spoke those words, Lin Dong no longer hesitated. With a turn, he shot off and flew towards the spatial vortex that was still present in the distant sky. Ling Qingshu shot a glance at Fen Tian, who had lost all his life force, as a pensive look flashed past her eyes. Soon after, she moved and caught up to Lin Dong before the both of them shot into the spatial vortex at the same time and rapidly disappeared. Following the departure of the two, the Crimson Mountain Range fell into silence once again. A desolate and ancient feeling stealthily pervaded the air. In the end, it enveloped the entire domain. Within the Crimson Basin, a patch of space suddenly distorted before transforming into a spatial vortex. 2 figures stepped out one after another and proceeded to fly away. Lin Dong floated in mid-air while sweeping his gaze across the basin. The vast crowd that was originally here was now no longer present. Looking as far as his eye could see, there were only a few people present, a far cry from the explosive atmosphere that had once filled this place. "Looks like everyone has left." After observing this scene, Lin Dong could not help but to smile and remark, "Yes. There is still over half a month's worth of journey from here to the unique devil region. Most likely, the disciples of the various sects would have started training again," replied Ling Qingshu as she nodded her head. "Shouldn't you head back to take charge of the situation?" asked Lin Dong. "Wu Kun has some leadership capabilities and he should be able to handle it, while Su Ru is not weak as well. As long as they do not meet with too great a trouble, they should be all right," replied Ling Qingshu indifferently. "I should be directing this question at you instead. Your Dao sect has a deep grudge with Yuan Gate. Aren't you afraid that Yuan Gate will take action against your Dao sect when you're not around? I believe that Qingtan and Chen Gui should be following senior sister Xiao Xiao and the rest. With Chen Gui around, Yuan Kang would be somewhat restrained. He will likely not act until the final moment. After all, the deeper areas of unique devil region are rather dangerous. If they meet with a formidable demon by chance, it would also be a huge headache for them," replied Lin Dong. "Naturally, for safety's sake, it's best to return to the group." Lin Dong smiled before waving his hand at Ling Qingshu and asked, "Shall we go together?" Upon hearing his words, Ling Qingshu slowly shook her head, before shooting a look at another direction within the deeper regions of unique devil region and replied, "You go ahead, I still have something that I need to do." That direction is the area with the highest concentration of demons within unique devil region. "Why do you need to go there?" Lin Dong gazed at the direction Ling Qingshu had indicated. His eyebrows involuntarily furrowed as he asked. "According to the information that I've acquired from an ancient text, there is a supreme purity celestial pond in the depths of unique devil region. It was left behind by a powerful practitioner from ancient times." Ling Qingshu hesitated for a while before saying in a soft voice, "I've trained in the 9 Heavens celestial arts of the 9 Heavens Supreme Purity Palace. This martial art is excessively fearsome, which caused me to injure my meridians and internal organs after an accident during my training. Therefore, I need the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond to heal my injuries as well as to counterbalance the residual effects of the 9 heavens celestial arts. Lin Dong was stunned. He had obviously not realized that Ling Qingzhu was actually suffering from internal injuries. Why not bring along the 9 heavens Supreme Purity Palace disciples? It will not be an easy journey, asked Lin Dong with a frown. It is exactly because it will not be easy. Even if I bring them along, they would be of no use, and it would instead cause more unnecessary injuries and deaths, replied Ling Qingzhu indifferently. Soon after, she did not elaborate any further and the green lotus appeared beneath her jade-like feet. Let's separate here. We'll meet again at the teleportation array at the exit. Take care. As her words faded, Ling Qingzhu did not hesitate and immediately transformed into a green ray of light that shot towards the horizon. Moments later, the green ray of light suddenly stopped. She turned her head in astonishment and noticed a thin youth following closely behind her. A radiant smile had surfaced on his youthful face. It doesn't seem gentlemanly to let a girl go to such a place by herself. Therefore, let's go together. I might as well take the opportunity to repay your favor. The youth looked towards Ling Qingzhu, who wore an astonished expression on her face. He spread out his hands in a carefree manner and smiled. Darkness covered the inner areas of unique devil region. Occasionally, dusky rays of light would shine through, however, they would be devoured by the darkness in the blink of an eye. From time to time, brutal roars could be heard resounding in the distance, echoing endlessly across the land. 2 rays of light flew rapidly through the air at low altitude. Their vigilant gazes continuously scanned the surroundings while vigorous yuan power surrounded their bodies. These 2 figures were Lin Dong and Ling Qingzhu, who had left the Burning Sky Ancient Stash together 3 days ago. Their goal was naturally the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond at the depths of unique devil region. Ling Qingzhu was clearly somewhat astonished that Lin Dong had followed her that day. In the beginning, she obviously wanted to reject him. She was noble, arrogant, and aloof, hence she did not like to owe others favors, especially when this person would be Lin Dong. Her noble and arrogant nature made it even more difficult for her to accept this. However, in the end, after seeing the radiant smile on the youth's face, an indescribable feeling rose from her heart. The rejection hanging on her lips was slowly swallowed back. Her character was cold, distant, and proud. When communicating with others on a daily basis, she was cold yet noble. However, this cold and noble demeanor was always somewhat different when she faced Lin Dong. Although this difference might be minute and subtle, the fact was that it existed. The origin of this minute difference was evidently the unclear and complicated relationship between the 2 of them. We've already entered the depths of unique devil region. The demons here are all extremely formidable. In addition, although these demons are troublesome, we still have to be wary about others. As sunlight flirted past, Ling Qingzhu gazed into the distance for a while, before tilting her head and talking to Lin Dong. Others, hearing this, Lin Dong was stumped for a moment. He was evidently slightly shocked. Disciples from the other sects have come here as well. Not the disciples of the other sects. Ling Qingzhu shook her head and continued, there are quite a few treasure seekers within the depths of unique devil region. Anyone who can reach this place is absolutely no pushover. They can be considered experts even within the entire Eastern Xian region. These people are overwhelmingly powerful, and it would hardly be a surprise if some of them have already reached the profound life stage. Additionally, these people will not hesitate to attack super sect disciples if there are treasures or ample enough benefits. Profound life stage. Lin Dong's pupils contracted a little. Looks like those outside would not be able to compare to these people in the deeper areas of unique devil region. Even amongst the super sects, profound life stage experts would possess rather remarkable statuses. In unique devil region, the amount of rejection one faces will increase with one's strength. However, the rejection force faced by those of the profound life stage is not overly unbearable. However, us and them have always minded our own businesses, and they will not interfere in the great sect competition. However, this place is basically not encompassed by the great sect competition. Therefore, we have to be careful. Ling Qingzhu softly explained. Lin Dong slowly nodded his head. People who were able to survive in such an environment would not be easy to deal with. If they were to be attacked, it would truly become quite thorny and problematic. There's still half a day before we reach the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond. It's situated in a rather hidden location and should not be discovered so easily. In addition, the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond will only appear once every month. From what I've calculated, it should make its appearance today. Therefore, we have to increase our speed such that someone else does not reach it first. Although that place is rather hidden. Lin Dong nodded his head again. Just as he was able to say something, his eyes suddenly focused on a particular spot in the distance. An extremely violent and wild fluctuation radiated out from that spot. That is. Faintly narrowing his eyes, Lin Dong saw that the origin of that wild and violent fluctuation was an extremely gigantic demon. Currently, a figure was floating in the air before it. Extremely swift and fierce attacks were pouring down on the demon like a rainstorm, completely suppressing it till it was unable to move a single inch. Such strength! Upon seeing this scene play out, astonishment flashed past Lin Dong's eyes. This demon possessed the strength of the 9-yuan Nirvana stage, however, that person was able to completely suppress it. From the looks of it, his strength should have at least reached the peak of the 9-yuan Nirvana stage. That's a treasure seeker who has come to the deeper areas of unique devil region. Let's go, do not converse with him. It is taboo to do so in this place, said Ling Qingzhu while shooting a look at the distance. Lin Dong nodded his head. Without reducing their speed, the two of them took a detour and went around the far-off battlefield. Bang! While they were taking a detour, the demon collapsed onto the ground with a loud bang. It had been killed by a middle-aged man with red hair. His gaze was filled with vigilance as it turned towards Lin Dong and Ling Qingzhu. Following which, the middle-aged man dug an object out of the demon's body and quickly stashed it before swiftly retreating. His vigilance is remarkable. Upon seeing the man's reaction, Lin Dong faintly smiled on the surface while he secretly turned somewhat solemn. The man who had just retreated had a fiendish aura. It was clear that he was a man who constantly lived on a knife's edge. Such a person was the hardest to deal with. If all the treasure seekers within the deeper areas of unique devil region were the same, it would truly be a headache should a conflict erupt. The duo looked at each other. Both of them could sense the graveness within the other party's eyes. With a shift of their bodies, they increased their speed and shot off towards the distance. Although their destination was only half a day away, they met quite a few demons along the way. By the time the two of them had arrived at their destination, it was already long past the half-a-day estimate. This is the place. Ling Qingzhu extended her slender and jade-like fingers and pointed at a mountain range that appeared from within the darkness. Her usually noble and aloof self silently released a sigh of relief. Looking up, Lin Dong was barely able to make out the mountain range faintly in the darkness. From a distance, it looked like an ancient pitch-black beast creeping along the ground. One could faintly hear the brutal roars of demons resounding out from the mountain range. Let's go, Lin Dong said with a smile. Restrain your presence as much as possible, there are quite a number of demons here. If we're besieged, we can only flee, reminded Ling Qingzhu. Yes. Only after seeing Lin Dong nod his head, did Ling Qingzhu breathe out softly. The green lotus below her feet started to dissipate before the yuan power glow retreated into her body. After doing this, the two of them stealthily headed towards the gigantic mountain range. Afraid to disturb the demons within the mountain range, the two of them had substantially lowered their speed. Splitting roars brimming with brutality would emerge from various locations from time to time. Lin Dong followed half a step behind Ling Qingzhu. His mental energy was already thoroughly released as he tried to keep track of the minute traces of activity within the surrounding darkness. Be careful. Suddenly, the mental energy that was sweeping out undulated. Lin Dong's eyes focused as he suddenly grabbed Ling Qingzhu's wrists while his gaze was locked onto a particular spot to his front. A pitch-black panther with wings was hibernating on the ground. From a distance, it appeared to be a black rock. With the aid of the demonic energy that pervaded the entire unique devil region, these demons were evidently able to conceal themselves perfectly. So much so that even Ling Qingzhu had been unable to sense the panther previously. Yes. Ling Qingzhu nodded her head slightly. In the dusky environment, a pair of bright and clear eyes shot a look at Lin Dong. Noticing her gaze, he smiled and released his hand, before seemingly talking to himself, such a pleasant sensation. Although Lin Dong's voice was very soft, it still traveled into Ling Qingzhu's ears. A trace of embarrassment and anger instantly flashed within her eyes. Next, she gently inhaled and her chest rose up and down. Ignoring Lin Dong, she continued on, making a detour around the winged demonic panther as she shot deeper into the mountain range. As Lin Dong gazed at the beautiful figure that appeared extremely graceful and alluring in the dusky sky, he could not help but give a bitter laugh. Usually, it was still manageable. However, every time he saw Ling Qingzhu's noble yet frigid face, he could not resist the urge to say something that would make her break that facade. This thought had a somewhat evil tendency. While he bitterly laughed, Lin Dong swiftly caught up to Ling Qingzhu once again. The two of them cautiously traveled within the mountain range and took a fairly strange route. After approximately half an hour, the dusky sky in front of them suddenly grew much brighter, as a valley appeared within their sights. Lin Dong was able to feel an extremely boundless energy fluctuation originating from the valley. Like specters, the two of them flew towards the cliff wall of the valley. From there, they looked into the valley and spotted a pond sparkling with rainbow lights within the depths of the valley, causing the entire valley to appear extremely splendid and magnificent under its illumination. That is the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond. Ling Qingzhu gazed at the rainbow pond as a soul-stirringly beautiful smile of relief finally appeared on her face. From atop the valley, Lin Dong gazed into the valley before focusing on the rainbow pond. Astonishment flashed within his eyes. Evidently, he never imagined that there would actually be such pure energy within the demonic energy-filled unique devil region. It is said that a powerful practitioner from ancient times had died here. The practitioner's bones sunk into the land and prevented the demonic energy's encroachment. At the same time, this supreme purity celestial pond was formed. Ling Qingzhu's soft voice rang out from the side. There is a demon guarding this place and it is very powerful. Lin Dong said as he shifted his gaze towards the front of the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond. Entrenched on the dark ground was a gigantic black monster snake. This snake had 3 heads and its fierce and sharp fangs glistened with a cold glint. Saliva dripped from them, corroding the rocks below them. From the body of the 3-headed monster snake, Lin Dong was able to feel an extremely malevolent energy fluctuation. According to his estimates, the strength of this monster snake was perhaps not the least bit weaker than Lei Qian, who was half a step into the profound life stage. This thing is rather hard to deal with. However, on the bright side, these demons are not intelligent and only know how to instinctively hunt and kill. This makes it easy to lure them away. Lin Dong muttered. Yes. Ling Qingzhu nodded her head. She knew that tangling with a demon that was not afraid to die would only lead to trouble. If it was not thoroughly dealt with, it would never give up. With a wave of his sleeve, the demon corpse appeared in a flash. Just as he was about to control it to lure away the monster snake in the valley, he suddenly frowned and shot a look towards the darkness behind him from the corner of his eye. What is it? Sensing Lin Dong's change, Ling Qingzhu could not help but ask. Nothing. After hesitating for a while, Lin Dong shook his head. With a thought, the demon corpse shot out. A fist blasted forward, bringing along a swift and fierce force as it violently smashed into the body of the monster snake. Bang! A deep sound rang out. The originally hibernating monster snake suddenly opened its scarlet eyes, before furious hisses emerged from the 3 snake heads. Following which, a black ray of light which contained an intense aura of corrosion shot towards the demon corpse. The demon corpse dodged in midair, completely evading the black ray. Turning around, it proceeded to flee the valley. Hiss! In response to the fleeing demon corpse, the monster snake roared furiously towards the sky. It was obvious that it was not intelligent enough to think. Directly relying on its instinctive rage, it waved its tail and gave chase to the demon corpse in a flash. Rumbling noises rapidly resounded from the valley before fading in the distance. It settled. Upon seeing this, Lin Dong smiled and clapped his hands. Nodding his head towards Ling Qingshu, the two continued forwards and descended to the edge of the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond. Bending down, Ling Qingshu extended her hand into the water. As she felt the special energies that permeated the water, a joyous expression flashed across her face. "Could you help me guard the valley entrance for some time?" asked Ling Qingshu. Raising her head, a bashful expression which had an utmost flavor of a delicate girl flashed past those clear and pure eyes. All right." Lin Dong gawked. After understanding her reason, Lin Dong laughed dryly before turning around and heading off. As she watched the Lin Dong's leaving figure, Ling Qingshu gave a gentle sigh of relief. She removed her veil, and was just about to remove her clothes and enter the pond when a hand suddenly extended from behind her, preventing her from continuing. "You?" This sudden turn of events caused Ling Qingshu to be alarmed. She hurriedly turned her body, and saw Lin Dong, who had circled and returned. Instantly, an angry scowl appeared on her beautiful face. "We're being targeted." Without waiting for Ling Qingshu to vent her anger, Lin Dong slowly said. His eyes were focused on the darkness outside the valley. "What?" After hearing these words, Ling Qingshu immediately knitted her eyebrows. An indistinct cold glint started to flow within her clear pupils. "After sneakily following us for so long, it should be time for the two of you to reveal yourselves, right?" As he stared at the darkness in the distance, Lin Dong said in a deep voice. At the beginning, he had faintly felt that something was wrong. This feeling was extremely minute to the point where he assumed it to be a misconception. However, just as Ling Qingshu was about to remove her clothes and enter the pond, he was finally able to sense those very faint presences in the distant darkness. "Since you don't want to reveal yourselves, I can only force you out." Lin Dong gazed at the still peaceful darkness before him, as a cold glint flashed past his eyes. Bending his palm, green light condensed to form two razor-sharp scales, that transformed into green flashes as they shot out explosively. The scales shot into the darkness, and a clear ringing sound resounded out immediately. Sparks erupted, as the foliage of the dark forest shook. In the next instant, two figures shot out under Lin Dong and Ling Qingshu's cold gazes. This brat is quite sharp." At the entrance of the valley, the two men looked down from above at them and said with a strange smile. Lin Dong's gaze turning extremely gloomy as he stared at the two men before him. Both of them were wearing black robes, while their appearances had some similarities. It would appear that they were siblings. The appearances of the two men was not bad, however those pair of long and narrow eyes continuously wandered around Ling Qingshu's alluring body. The smiles that appeared on their faces added a trace of obscenity to them. "Such a beautiful lady. The number of girls that we brothers have seen are too many to count, however, this one is the best." The greedy gaze of one of the men rested on the extremely cold face of Ling Qingshu before saying with a giggle, "We originally felt the energy fluctuations of this place. Never did we imagine that we would have such a harvest," the other man added on with a strange grin on his face. Lin Dong's eyes brimmed with gloominess as he looked towards the two rather loathsome men. The fluctuations radiating out from their bodies indicated to him that they were experts who were half a foot into the profound life stage. This meant that they were not the least bit inferior to Lei Qian. However, this did not raise a single bit of dread from him, which led him to stare at them with chilling intent in his eyes. A sinisterly icy voice slowly rang out from his mouth, "If you don't want to die, scram." Atop the valley wall, the two men in black robes faintly narrowed their eyes, a sinister intent erupted from them. They glared at Lin Dong in a chilling manner and grinned. "A brat at the Nirvana stage actually dares to utter such words in front of us. You truly don't know how high the heavens and how deep the earth is. Beauty, this brat can't protect you with just that little bit of ability. Why not follow us, brothers? At that time, you can enjoy the supreme purity celestial pond as well, heh." Hearing the frivolous teasing by the two men, Ling Qingshu's beautiful face turned as cold as ice. However, this only increased the itch within the two men's hearts. "You better start treating your wounds. The supreme purity celestial pond will only appear for a limited amount of time. Let me deal with the two of them." Tilting his head, Lin Dong looked towards the frosty Ling Qingshu. A smile that was perfused with a murderous aura appeared on his face. This murderous aura was exceptionally thick. Lin Dong did not know why he was unable to restrain himself from emitting such a murderous aura. However, his rationality was telling him that he did not wish to let any of the two fellows go. These two men should be the Yang brothers, who are quite infamous within Unique Devil region. The one on the left is the older one, Yang Zhon, while the other is the younger one, Yang Wei. They are experts who have taken half a step into the profound life stage. It's said that they are extremely vicious and cruel individuals, with naturally lascivious characters. They were previously on the wanted lists of some super sects, however, they hid within Unique Devil region. Even though super sects were somewhat helpless and couldn't do anything about them, shall we fight them together? Ling Qingzhu hesitated for a while, before asking Lin Dong. The strength of these two men was not inferior to Lei Qian. If it was only Lin Dong, it would be quite strenuous for him to deal with them. We don't have the time to wait here for a month, replied Lin Dong with a smile. If they were to miss this chance, the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond would only appear the following month. Due to the great sect competition, it was clear that they could not stay here and wait. All right, be careful. I'll finish as quickly as possible. Upon hearing Lin Dong's reply, Ling Qingzhu still had some hesitation. Soon after, she gently bit her lip and nodded at Lin Dong. Her body moved and she entered the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond. Her wonderful figure was like a graceful carp swimming towards the depths of the celestial pond. In the next moment, a white dress floated up. As he watched Ling Qingzhu enter the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond, the smile on Lin Dong's face slowly withdrew. His pitch-black eyes were sinisterly cold as they shifted and locked onto the two men on the cliff edge. Heh, don't go so fast, beauty. We brothers will accompany you in a moment. The two Yang brothers looked at the ripples appearing on the surface of the Supreme Purity Celestial Pond with fiery gazes, while the fire of lust in their eyes started to grow increasingly hot. No need. You two will accompany each other to hell. Lin Dong's body slowly floated up in the air. Soon after, an evil grin appeared from the corners of his mouth. With a clench of his fist, a crimson palm-sized cauldron appeared in a flash. It was obvious that the two men had thoroughly awakened the murderous intent within Lin Dong's heart. This video will end here.